In this video, we are going to talk about main idea questions. I know I already talked about questions with question stems. This is a type of question that has question stems. And let's get into it. So here's an example of what I mean by main idea questions. They're sometimes called writer's goal questions. Either way, this is kind of usually what's going on. So we have, suppose the writer's goal had been to write an essay that outlines the evolution of video games during the 1970s. Would this essay accomplish this goal? So you see how the idea is they're setting up, let's say this is the goal of the essay or the main idea of the essay. Does this essay fulfill this goal, right? That's the idea. And sometimes these are worded a little bit differently. In any case, they're always kind of, is this the main idea of the essay, essentially, okay? So, and then usually what we have here is a 50-50, meaning you've got yeses, you've got a couple of yeses, you've got a couple of nos, and then you've got some explanations. My favorite way to do these questions is to first look for the perfect answer, and then go back and match that with what's available. So I know a lot of times you guys have trouble with these main idea questions because they come kind of at the end of a passage and you're like, holy crap, I didn't read the passage at all. And I'm not saying you should go back and read the whole passage. That's not at all what I'm going to tell you to do. In fact, I don't think you should read the whole passage because you don't often have to read the whole passage to get even the main idea question right. Instead, what I'm going to tell you to do is you just go each question one at a time through the passage. And then when you get to the end, you've got to kind of regroup and use a little bit of that extra time you picked up by not reading the whole thing to figure out the main idea. So the approach that I like to take is usually these passages aren't brain surgery, these English passages. And you can find the main idea in one of three places, typically pretty quickly, okay? The first place that I always look whenever I have this, the goal of this is the title. If you're really short on time, let's say you're on question 75, often this is question 75 on the test, it's literally the last one, and you are like, oh my gosh, I have 30 seconds left, I have no time to read the whole thing, what do I do? If that's you, look at the title of the passage and infer as much as you can, because at least that title is central to what the main idea is, okay? If that doesn't tell me what the main idea is, I'm going to look at the first paragraph of the passage. I might read a few sentences in. I might read the bottom of the first paragraph, trying to find that thesis statement of sorts. And finally, I might read the last paragraph of the passage, which usually recaps stuff, especially like the last sentence or two, usually is leading this out into like, here's what this was all about kind of idea. So from those three places alone, without reading the whole thing, I usually can get the main idea or enough to at least go back to the question. So that's what we're going to do right now. We have this example. So the idea is, does this outline the evolution of video games during the 1970s? Okay. I'm going to look at the title, Jerry Lawson, Video Game Pioneer. Okay, so I instantly am thinking no. Because guess what? That question was asking me a broad question, which is the evolution of video games. That's like all video games during the 1970s. That's like the whole freaking decade. And this is about one guy, right? This is like biography about one human being. So I'm already tipped off just from this that the answer is probably no. If I'm running out of time, I'm just going to go to those no's and I'm going to figure it out from there. Now I'm going to read a little bit more to figure out who this guy is and what this is about. So he's the first prominent African-American in the gaming industry, a pioneer who created the world's first video game console with interchangeable cartridges called the Fairchild Channel F. Good for him. Prior to his invention, video games were built directly into the hardware of a console, and individual cartridges allowed for more gaming options because multiple consoles were no longer necessary to get different games. The Channel F was a huge step forward for the gaming industry. So this guy's revolutionary. This might be, I could maybe argue that this is about one revolutionary advancement by a particular person that changed the world of video games, but as you can see, I don't think I've got the entire evolution of video games during the 1970s. That seems way too broad. And then I could also check my last paragraph. And again, we're back to talking about the Channel F, right, down here. The Channel F was not particularly successful because Atari released a similar console called the 2600 under a year later. Atari's brand was better known than Fairchild Semiconductor, so Atari is credited with popularizing the use of ROM cartridges. Despite that fact, without Jerry Lawson's ingenious invention, video games would not be the same today. A month before his death, he received an Industry Pioneer Award from these people. So again, this is just all about Jerry and the Fairchild F. It's not about the evolution of video games in the 70s. That's like way too broad. It's more about Jerry and like how he worked into the mix, right? So I'm going to say no because it's just about one dude, right? And then I go back and I look for that. No, because it focuses on one particular pioneer's accomplishments in the field. Exactly. No, because it explains the history of video games from the advent of computing to the present. I didn't see anything about the present of video games. I didn't see anything about computer games or 3D or VR video games or anything like that. So D is out, C is right. But you see how I look for my perfect answer in the text itself, and then I match that with what's available when I get back here, and then boom, I've got a good answer choice. And again, the 3 places I look, title, first paragraph, last paragraph, boom, I'm done. So that's going to work 90% of the time, that strategy. Occasionally, it's not going to be that easy, and you're not going to have the beautiful no that we have here, okay?